All right, so believe it or not, morals are not universal. In fact, a lot of your sensibilities are not universal. Universal. In the sense that they do not contain all possible premises and stuff, or have some premise that supersedes what are the real premises and stuff. Because real premises can still be disputed, um, for creative reasons and stuff. But when it comes to like superseding principles, like analytical principles and stuff, those are rock solid. Those are lingual systems that are like pre-codified and everything and stuff, and they're time and space transposable, which makes them universal and stuff, or most universal and stuff. You Even if they're not totally universal and stuff, you you're still best off with that type of a thing and stuff. So there's that. Um, and we're gonna go into this topic a little bit more and stuff. Now, morality, however you define it, is either mostly not filled in or consists of select details, which still permits for a lot, even one uses the criterion of purpose, or is this entity most like this to assign right versus wrong? Um, Now, the point of this, the central point of this lesson is that there are factors that determine a person's moral sense and stuff. Um, Things become taboo in one sphere, but even extremely desirable in another for different reasons. And uh, which can, I mean, but I guess if there's a lack of moral inversion there, it's because the because certain types of certain senses of the meanings of the word right and wrong do not change when you transpose. So, um, in hardworking or smart working occupations and stuff, there's conflicting morals. The hardworking person and stuff doesn't have to value, like a person who's hardworking doing like hard physical work. They they don't have to value facts and stuff because they can always physically change things. It doesn't matter where something is, what it isn't, so what is and what's not and stuff, because it can just always come to contest and stuff. Like you can give the a person who's like that can give the lie to anything and stuff. So any so any adherence to the truth and stuff goes away and stuff. So there and the virtues there change. Like they tend to value strength and stamina and stuff. It's almost like a religious thing. And this has been tried in the past and stuff. There was something called the muscular Christianity movement and stuff, um, which I think I'm just gonna go see if I can find any interesting things on muscular Christianity. Um, which, by the way, is a movement that collapsed and stuff because, well, turns out that humans can't handle that. Um, yeah, so movement that fused rigorous physical training and athletic discipline with Christian moral and spiritual formation to cultivate strong, virtuous men resistant to the enervating effects of urban industrialization and perceived doctrinal softness and stuff. Softness. You see the implicit misogyny there and stuff. It's muscular Judaism and stuff. Emphasizes physical regeneration and robustness among Jews to counteract the purported enfeeblement resulting from prolonged diaspora of conditions of urban confinement, intellectual pursuits, and persecution-induced survival strategies. Yeah, it's a bit better. So, um, muscular liberalism, advocating the vigorous promotion and enforcement of core liberal values such as freedom of speech, democracy, and rule of law, and equal rights irrespective of race, sex, and morality, against ideological threats like Islamist extremism as an alternative to passive state multiculturalism. Anything else? Uh, Grokpedia has a most muscular pose and stuff. This as one of the articles. Somebody wrote an article on that. How about isn't that nice how time and energy is spent? I'm just glad it was electronic time and energy and not somebody's personal time and energy, because some of those Wikipedia articles are just absolutely ridiculous stuff. Um, so yeah, but in smart working occupations, it's about, they preserve the facts and stuff. They record the facts. They uh, they value logic and critical thinking and stuff, intellectual achievements, um, solving problems, stuff like that, and which has proven itself in the world. I mean, we have many think tank institutions in the United States that drive policy pretty nicely, better than pretty much anybody else, um, save for one or two. I think we all know which one we're talking about. Yeah. Anyway, arbitration, eternal values, external values, such as consensus views and consideration. Yeah, so in moral arbitration, it's a different game. So you have to force the issue. You're going to have to dispute some truths and stuff to do that and stuff. Sometimes you have to say to hell with circumstance. Because you don't accept the way things are and stuff. And when it comes to eternal values, you have internal analytical constructions of what is right and wrong and stuff. External values, stuff such as consensus views and stuff. That's a shift in morality too and stuff. Because now you've basically adopted the morality of somebody else. You haven't thought through and constructed your own morality and stuff. You've copied somebody else and stuff. And consideration. Consideration can be considered the opposite of arbitration in a sense. Arbitration has more to do with moral reasoning that gives you traction, and consideration has to do with moral reasoning that leads to logically accurate arguments and stuff, valid inputs and outputs, and creating actionable data for that reason and stuff, like actionable thoughts and stuff. As thoughts can be considered a form of data. They're just not cyber data in the way you think about it. So, intellectual versus physical morals. Did we talk about that already? I mean, we kind of did talk about that and stuff. But yeah, physical morality is like, does this food taste good and stuff? That type of thing. That legalist, illegalist, and semi-legalist views. And the legalist views and stuff. If the law says it's right, it's right. In some cases, not in a lot of cases. In some cases, legalists will probably favor the inflexibility of law and stuff, which is funny because the people that work in that field and stuff revise and update and append the law all the time and choose which laws are in force based on political season and stuff. So illegalist and semi-legalist views. Well, the illegalists and stuff, they just don't believe in laws and stuff. It's I don't know what that logic is. I don't understand how they think, but I don't think they think much. Semi-legalist views, so people who dispute some laws and stuff, basically intelligent people. But yeah, these are three different realms which can shift somebody's moral reasoning. Moralist and immoralist views. Moralists just want the moral theory and stuff, and they want to do their best, or they just think they have everything right. They might even be very religious and stuff, but it's like the saying goes, there's no love like church hate. So there's that. Immoralist and immoralist views. So now as for immoralist views, that's basically a moral inversion and stuff. That's depravity and stuff. That's not even moral reasoning anymore. That's almost like this crazy, egoist animal mindset and stuff. Religious variation on morals. Oh yeah, so here's some religious variations on morals. You have the rabbinic morals, which emphasizes the study of the Torah and the suppression or destruction of the Yetzer Hara. I wrote yesterday. It's funny. The Yetzer Hara is the name for the human propensity to do evil. Not everybody has it though. Anyway, Christian morals. A moral theory as explained by the historic Jesus as far as also divinely special Jesus. Because divinity is real, and the question is which religion is closest to fully understanding it. Right? The adoption maintenance of the Holy Spirit. And so this is more of a Baptist thing. And so, but I have a Bible right here, and I'll talk about what some of the things that Jesus says is according to this account and stuff. Because this is, again, this is we're not necessarily talking about the historical canon. We're talking about the religious theory and stuff, which in the most stressed case can be considered a creatively built moral theory. Okay, we can talk about, as an example, we can talk about, his teachings to the apostles before the crucifixion, alleged, from John 14:17, right? Uh, don't let your hearts be troubled, trust in God, blah, blah, blah. He says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father except through me. If you had really known me, you would know who my Father is. From now on, you do know him and have seen him. Wow. So, Jesus promises the Holy Spirit here. This is the New Living Translation, by the way, which is based on a natural equivalence translation, meaning it is a direct English translation from the ancient scrolls from the Ethiopian Bible, Dead Sea Scrolls, stuff like that. The original copies of the Bible. The Father is the Holy Spirit who leads all into truth, more or less, he says. I'm trying to see something about. It directly talks about something that directly talks about morals, and because they love me, my Father will love them, and I will love them, reveal myself to each of them, and stuff. All who love me will do what I say. Anyone who doesn't love me will not obey me. And remember, my words are not my own. Love each other in the same way I have loved you. There is no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. I no longer call you slaves because a master doesn't confide in his slaves. Now you are my friends since I have told you everything the Father told me. You didn't choose me, I chose you. I appointed you to go and produce lasting fruit so that the Father will give you whatever you ask for using my name. This is the command. Love each other. That's a statement on morality. Oh yeah, there's plenty of morality here, references to morality here in John. But yeah, so this is just an example of the Christian morality and stuff. So, I mean, that's basically the end of the lesson here. Your moral reasoning system that you use depends on what spheres you're developed into. Okay. And you know, to a degree, it also so we could talk about this fear here and stuff. It's not really the end of the lesson. Sorry. The the morals of the mentally mature person versus the mentally immature person are gonna vary quite a bit, because a mentally immature person has a consciousness, attitude, and awareness, um, a speed of mind that is much more limited compared to a mentally mature person. Uh, Mentally mature people have knowledge, skills, and stuff, and they can, you know, they have the mental capacity to see the wrongs and the rights, and to understand the consequences of their actions and stuff like that. So there's that. But the mentally immature have their own moral system, what they believe is right and wrong, and stuff, which is changes at a level, which is basically a change in the level of sensitivity and depth and stuff. So there's that. Um, but yeah, I mean that's basically it. We're at almost 17 minutes.